And welcome back. Okay, so we've created our expression and we've applied it. We've assigned controllers to them as well, and our animator can use them if they wish to or not. But let's just play this through again. Now, as you can see, yes, it's oscillating left to right, up and down, but it's doing so in a manner which I find, well, vaguely unrealistic. What I'd like to see to some extent is this doing so in a figure of 8 motion. Okay, let me just stop this for a moment and take it back to the beginning. So really what I'm looking at is an arc of shift, and in this case let's call it a shift within the actual drift. I know it sounds confusing, but let me just show you. I'm going to start with the Z position. No, we'll go on the X position. Right click and we're going to go up to properties. Well, the part that really controls that is this section here. We've set it at 30, but look what happens if I set this at 60. We'll go evaluate and then we'll start to play again. Now it's still doing it, but as you can see there is that the beginning of a formation of a figure of 8. Okay, let's close that down, stop that and take it back to the beginning. Now let's look at the Z position. Right click, let's look at the properties there. Let's change this to 60 also. Evaluate, let's close this down, and now let's play again. Well, that's getting that figure of 8 motion there. I like that. Okay, let's stop it and bring it back to the beginning again. Now for myself, I'd actually leave it at that, and I'm sure the animator would be quite happy for me to do so. But let's say that we did want to actually include, I'm just going to pop in, we'll select our control curve here. But let's say that our animator did want us to include some kind of control of this. Well, we could of course go in and create a new attribute, and we could possibly call it drift shift, because it's shifting around the axes. So drift shift horizontal, drift shift vertical, and we can set it up whereby, right, we've got that in, and then if we go back, let me just zoom around here, select our point connection fuselage again, pop into motion, and we select X, right click, go to properties. Right, well, here we are. We could now say, okay, I want to create another variable, and this time I want to call it drift shift horizontal. Create it, and now we have another variable once we've assigned a controller, and it would be the controller that we created within our control curve Messerschmitt. Right, so assign that controller, and then we could replace that figure there with our new variable drift shift horizontal. Would be that simple. As I say, I'm going to leave it with just that value in. So I'm going to delete that one there. But it's something for you to consider, and of course if you think about it, you can use this kind of expression for all sorts of things as far as animating the Messerschmitt is concerned. I mean, I for one can actually see a use for this expression with the machine guns. That means that means deleting the geometry associated with the machine guns there, creating some new geometry, adding that expression, and then having these machine guns recoiling using that expression. So you've got some control over the machine guns. Just a thought. Well, now that we have our model rigged, it's not quite ready to hand over to the animator. So what can we do? Well, there are certain things that I wouldn't want the animator to mess around with. As far as I'm concerned, we've set it up so that they've got controls over those various parts, and they have access to the control curve Messerschmitt here. So what I would do is pop into our layers manager, go to the rig and say, okay, what do I want the animator to have access to? Well, certainly none of the point connections. So let's hide those. We don't freeze them, we're just hiding them. Okay, so we've got those hidden now. The only thing he's got access to is the control curve Messerschmitt. Now obviously the animator could come in and unhide those and mess around with them, but as far as I'm concerned, the rigger, if he does that, or if they do that, then that's their problem. It's not mine. I've hidden these things, and I've done so for a damn good reason. Right, so let's close that down now. And there's also something else we can do. We've got it set up in our position here, and if we select our control curve now, right, and pop into our modify panel, there we are. We have our custom attributes or our controls. We can bring these all down to 0 to start with. So make sure everything is at 0. If it's a slider and we've got the 0 in the center, let's try getting that in the center there, somewhere there and there. That's down to 0, that's down to 0. Rudder, let's push that over a bit. Elevator, bring that down a little bit. Cockpit hood, down. So everything now is 0. Right, now I want it remaining in this position, or at least allowing the animator to bring it back to this position if anything should go wrong. So with this control curve selected, I'm now going to press Alt and then my right mouse key. Here now I am going to freeze the transform. Okay, so let's go freeze transform. Presents us with this warning notice. Once we've read it, yeah, we're going to continue. Okay, now let's say that our animator has been moving this about left, right and center, doing all sorts of things, getting it over here, putting it over there, and then realizes, hey, I actually need this back at the beginning. No problem. What he can do is, he's got that selected, go Alt, right click on the mouse key, and then he can go transform to 0, and it puts it back to 0. Now this is a very basic but quite effective way of rigging. Let me just zoom in here a bit. Let's get that there. And of course it's there for you to explore, play around with, get to know it. If you understand the basics and the mechanics of this kind of rigging, when it comes on to exploring other types of rigging, then it kind of takes away the mystery of it all. Okay, well that's about it for rigging. We may explore some other aspects of this topic when it's time to actually start animating our Messerschmitt. But I think what we're going to be doing is moving on to actually applying materials to our model. That's quite in depth as well. So all that remains is for me to say thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you later.